All right, this last lecture is going to be on the self-determination theory. And I have to just tell you all that I absolutely love the self-determination theory. In fact, this is the theory that really governs what we do with SmartFit Girls. So when we created SmartFit Girls and we created the curriculum, we based it off of using the self-determination theory. And this theory is based on the belief that people naturally, inherently, are motivated to pursue things that they're interested in and they're interested in and that they think that they are going to benefit from. And there's three primary things that lead to this feeling of being self-determined. Feeling like they're competent, feeling like they can be autonomous, and feeling like they have some sort of relatedness with people. And all of this also connects to how motivated they are and the types of motivation that they have to change. So it's important for you to know that self-determination has three primary constructs, and we're going to spend time on each of these individually: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. So let's go ahead and start with competence. This is the idea that when people feel good about themselves and feel like they've performed well, they are pleased with it and they feel this sense of, I can do this. I feel competent in whatever this behavior is. And it's really related to self-efficacy because if you remember, one of the pillars of self-efficacy is the sense of mastery. So as coaches, what we want to do is we want to build a feeling of competence, and we can build competence in our clients by creating situations where our clients feel early successes, right? And more importantly, not only are our clients feeling these early successes, but we are recognizing them verbally. The second pillar to self-determination theory is autonomy. And this is when people feel like they have a choice in what they're doing and that they can make decisions about their behavior. One of the biggest disservices that we do in the health and fitness industry is we take away all autonomy from people. And then when we are no longer working with them, they have no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to engage in physical activity. They don't know how to, properly eat well. So it's really important as health coaches that we coach in a way that supports autonomy of our clients. So autonomous motivation happens when people feel like they are behaving on their own free will. Controlled motivation is when people do something because they feel pressured from an external force. Really what we want to do as coaches is we want to build this feeling of autonomy by recognizing that our client is the expert in themselves. And you can even tell your client, listen, I'm here as a health coach and I know that even though I'm an expert for this piece of my field, you are the expert in your own life. And what we're going to do together is support your autonomous behaviors so that you can reach your goal. So really making sure that your clients know that they are going to engage in behaviors autonomously. And then that third pillar is relatedness. And this is when people feel like they belong to a group or a place or kind of this cohort or community. And relatedness has a lot to do with positive connections, and those positive connections are going to reinforce that internal motivation. So coaches can build a feeling of relatedness by providing them with some genuine warmth and acceptance and really kind of giving them this authentic experience that they feel connected to you. It's going to take a little extra steps and work, but by doing this, again, you're avoiding the cookie cutter approach and you're really making your client feel like they can relate to you on a level that's unique. Okay? And that's one of the things that's so critical about being a health coach is being able to connect and provide this sense of relatedness for your client. So now let's end this lecture by talking about different types of motivation. And I know we've talked about motivation before, but I really want to outline these very detailed, specific types. So the first and really the ideal is intrinsic motivation. And this is where we want our clients to get to. And so intrinsic motivation is when people pursue an activity because inherently they are interested in it and they enjoy it. And this is the most autonomous form of motivation. And it's the most effective type of motivation for behavior change. So what we want our clients to get to is intrinsic motivation. Kind of right below that is integrated regulation. And this is when the behavior and goals have become integrated into the person's self-concept. It's who they are, but it's not as autonomous. It doesn't just happen as naturally, and it's not as intrinsic yet. It's fairly autonomous. It's on its way to be an intrinsic motivation, but it's not quite there. Right below that, you have identified regulation. And this is when people perform an activity because it helps them reach a personally meaningful goal, even though they may not actually enjoy the activity. The goal of the activity is integrated into their values, and the behavior feels semi-autonomous. So an example of this, when people perform an activity because it's meaningful to them, but they don't really enjoy it. An example of this is when someone, brings a salad to work every day because they know it aligns with their personal values, it's integrated there, they feel like, okay, yeah, they're choosing to do it, but they may not actually really be enjoying eating that salad every day. Introjected regulation is when people engage in activity because they think they should, even though they really don't want to. They act in a way to avoid guilt or to feel better about themselves. So let's take this salad example. Not only is your client saying that they're bringing salad every day to work, that they don't really like it, but the language they use is, if I eat anything else at lunch, I just feel guilty. If they start talking about these feelings of guilt, really we know it's not intrinsic, right? So that's when we know it's introjected regulation, is when they start to say, I'm just doing this because this is something that I'd feel guilty if I didn't do, right? It's something that I have to do. And this definitely feels more like controlled regulation. The last two are external regulation and amotivation. External regulation is when people engage in activities solely because of an external reasons. And this could be because they're being punished or because they're getting rewards. So, and this is a form of controlled motivation. And I will say this rarely leads to long-term behavior change. There's so much scientific evidence to show that really the best success or the best predictor of long-term behavior change is when people are engaging in intrinsic motivation. So external regulation is really kind of the opposite of that. It's controlled, and the people are doing it because they want to avoid a punishment or gain a reward. So what's tricky is sometimes if you think about like health promotion, a lot of the things that we do from a health promotion perspective are, these apps of, if you lose a certain amount of weight, you're going to get this much money. Okay, again, that's this external thing, this external pressure that's leading them to this behavior. When that external pressure is released, what happens to that behavior? And most scientific studies are going to show that that behavior kind of reinstates itself again. And then lastly, we have amotivation, and this is when a person has no motivation whatsoever. And certainly there are people who are here. Most people are going to be along this continuum of motivation, and the idea is we get them closer and closer to this autonomous, intrinsically designed motivation. So in general, it's important that you understand the difference between two primary types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic, and how you coach is hopefully going to be coaching in a way that builds up their intrinsic motivation and kind of reduces the amount of extrinsic motivation. Now, it's also important that you know, when you're first starting with a client, they might need that extrinsic motivation, and that's okay because that's where they are right now. But you as a health coach need to eventually build them to a place to where they're behaving in a way because they want to, because it's intrinsically driven, not because there's this carrot dangling over their head. So let's stop here and do a learning recap. First question is, what are the three components of the self-determination theory? The second question is, what are the 6 broad categories of motivation, and what are the differences between them? Stop here, pause, and we'll see you for the next lecture.